everybody. Got a couple videos I gotta do. I'll start with this one. Now you'll recall, and my buddy Armageddon, I think 1971 or 71, whatever it is, lives in Florida. He messaged me, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe it was a little longer, 3 weeks ago, something like that. And he says, "Oh, I guess you might as well go ahead and add Spain and stuff to your list that you were talking about regarding Greece and Portugal and all that." And I think he may have sent me a link, and I replied back basically, not quite yet. I know we're going there, but let's wait for the actual news to take place. So of course, as he and I both talked about, and I did a video, what he was talking about was a video I had done a few months ago, maybe 3 months ago, I don't know the exact time frame, but it was around that time. And I said, look, I know we're just hearing about Greece right now, and I think I was doing the video, it may have been on Ireland getting into trouble, and I said, don't worry, Portugal's next, Spain's next, I don't care what they say. Sure enough, next thing we know, Portugal was next. And as Portugal's getting the spotlight of debt put on them and coming out with that, Spain stands up, Prime Minister, we don't have any issues like that, we don't care about Portugal, we are sound, we are fine, we don't have any problems. And then I think I made another video saying that. I don't care what the guy, what he says. And I said, by the way, let me read you some quotes from the Greece Prime Minister. And I think I rattled off some, or just basically said what they said, which was, we have no problem, everything's fine. Wrong, Greece is in trouble. Ireland next. Prime Minister, leaders, whatever, we're fine, we don't have any debt troubles, everything's great. Next thing you know, they need a bailout, they're in trouble too. Third guy comes along, Portugal, everything's fine, we don't need anything, our economy is sound. Boom, what happens next? Obviously the same thing. Big trouble, bond problems, etc. You know, debt period is all this is about. And while that was happening, I said, okay, and by the way, Spain, which is the largest Euro economy from what I understand, of those pig nations, pigs, P-I-I-G-S, that's the biggest one, and it's about $1 trillion deal to mess with. So Italy too is quite large, by the way, but Spain is like the king of the crop. So I told you then, don't listen to what these people tell you. Do not think for 1 second that an economy is fine. It is not. They are lying through their teeth, and it'll just be a matter of time before they're exposed next. Sure enough, hey, let me read you something today. Spanish and Italian borrowing costs soar. Spanish and Italian borrowing costs hit fresh peaks on Tuesday for the Euro era as the European debt crisis shot back to the center of investors' attention. Benchmark 10-year bond yields reached 6.46% for Spain and 6.26% for Italy, heading closer to the 7% level that propelled Greece, Ireland, and Portugal to seek bailouts as investors consider it unsustainable. In other words, when you see 7%, that's the exact level that those three nations I just mentioned decided, oh, we're in default zone, we're in trouble, we need a bailout. Although the people didn't want the bailout, of course, it was forced on them. The risk premium for the first time exceeded 400 points. Let me repeat that. There's a key word, right? As Lindsay Williams says, buzzword. Listen to their buzzwords. The risk premium for the first time ever exceeded 400 points. This is the level set by some analysts to raise an intervention. The moves are unnerving bankers working with peripheral European countries. Quote, these spreads are not sustainable. You clearly need to see some reprieve, end quote, said one senior European banker. Investors are worried that the European bailout vehicle, which is called the European Financial Stability Facility, right? Let's give it a cool name, does not have sufficient funds, to deal with Italy or Spain, the Eurozone's third and fourth largest economies. Now, Spain, of all of the pigs nations, is the largest, as I said. But it is the third, Italy is the fourth largest economy of all of the Eurozone, what I gather here. And Spain is the third largest of all, the entire Eurozone, not just the pigs nations. It's number one on the pigs list. So anyways, there you have it. Spain's next. As I said, it's obvious. Don't buy the crap. Stay away from paper. Stay away from the market. Speaking of the market, Debt ceiling raised. All right. Debt crisis averted. Breaking news. For some reason, that market should be rallying. Blast off. We came to a debt agreement. We can't let this collapse. And now we've got 2 more trillion, 2.4 whatever trillion to deal with. Raise the debt ceiling. And by the way, that means that's 2.4 trillion more in tax money that we will be owing as taxpayers to some foreign national somewhere, probably central banks mostly. In other countries, we owe them interest payments now, currently at 14.3 trillion, now to be almost 17 trillion basically now. You might as well say it's that close. So that's more interest on the debt that we have. So remember how they say, oh, 40 cents or 42 cents out of every dollar is taken. No, you can raise that up higher now. It might be closer to 50 cents now, or 48 cents, or I don't know. I haven't done the math, but it's upping that. So now we're borrowing. We're not really doing anything but borrowing more and having to pay back more as we borrow. The same situation in Europe, the Eurozone, everything. More debt, more debt, more debt. Oh, you're in trouble, you can't pay your bills? Here's a brand new credit card, but you still owe payments on the old credit cards combined, plus the new credit card. But we gave you a sweetheart deal on the interest rate on the new credit card. Yeah, but what about the old credit cards? I still have to pay those off. Yes, you do. And then when you get in trouble and we get downgraded, right, which is what Max Kaiser was just talking about, Moody's, you know, this nonsense place that S&P and Moody's, that they, you know, Standard & Poor and Moody's, they rate our bonds and other countries' bonds. It's just a feedback loop of, you know, putting your hand in my back pocket, I put my hand in your back pocket, and everything's fine until there's no escape. And we're entering the point of no escape where Moody's and the S&P have to say, look, we're downgrading you guys. We know we had a sweetheart deal. We know we were paid off basically to give you the best rating in the world. But now the world's looking and no, we can't hide anymore. And our government understands that. Yeah, go ahead, Moody's. So our AAA rating goes down to whatever the next level that they decide it goes to. And when that takes place, what normally happens is that the interest rates on those bonds, treasuries, right, goes up. So having said what I just said in the beginning, that we now have 2.4 trillion on top of the 14.3 trillion that we're making interest payments on, we'll round that off to 17 trillion now in debt payments. Just the interest is killing us, by the way. Having left alone, let's pretend, right? Let's pretend that we don't have to raise the debt ceiling anymore and it stays at 17 trillion. And miraculously, which is probably not going to happen, by the way, but miraculously, let's just say it doesn't go past 17 trillion and we do massive cuts and everything else and we just kind of keep it under 17 trillion and hey, great, everyone clap. First time in United States history, basically, it's been able to budget its freaking, you know, balance its budget. So again, let's pretend we got 17 trillion. We got that on lockdown. We're not going above it. Hooray. But our bond rating goes down and interest rates on those bonds goes up. Who's going to pay the excess interest, right? Like when you have a credit card and hey, I've got 8.5%, I'm great. And then all of a sudden they hit you with 20% out of nowhere. I can't pay my credit card payments no more. You know, I had a $15,000 credit card and I was able to make the payments at 8.9%, but now they just out of nowhere just got this letter in the mail jacking me up to 20. I can't pay anymore. Not to say that they're going to jack bond ratings up that high, interest rates. That won't happen, at least not in the beginning. But if it's whatever, you know, I don't even know what the interest rates are right this second, but let's say it's 4%. All right, I'm just making this number up. But let's say the interest on these bonds are around 4%. And you got hit with the downgrade. Okay, now it's 5%. 5% on a $100 loan is not really much compared to 4%. It's, you know, it's nothing. It's a matter of paying back $4 or paying back $5 on the loan, right? You get a $100 loan, you pay back $4, that's 4%. Your rate got increased. It's actually $5, so you got to pay back 105 instead of 104. Did that really bother you? Nah. But when it gets into the billions of dollars, oh, it's going to bother you, because that's millions of dollars in an increase. And when it's in the trillions, where we are, by the way, of dollars, 17 trillion to be exact, fixing to be anyways in the near future, add in that one little tiny 1%, and it hurts. Oh, does it hurt? So while they cut and cut and cut, and the economy gets worse, unemployment will get far worse, the bond ratings will go up. And eventually, as Lindsey Williams has been saying, will lead to the U.S. defaulting on its debt because it can't pay it. But in the interim period, they will raise the rates. They will put pressure on everybody. It's going to hurt. Life is going to suck. And then the whole thing will collapse. So the interesting thing is that today the Dow was down, I think last I looked, around 250 points. When every time we hear of a country getting bailed out, the stock market rally, rally, rally. Wall Street loved that news. Last night, Congress passed the House passed their version of the deficit bill, and now tomorrow, meaning today, the Senate will. All of a sudden, midnight, late night, early markets, all right, looking good. And then the Senate passes it. It's a done deal. Obama's going to sign it. And for some odd reason, when we all, including myself, expected the Dow to go up based on this nonsense news, it went down. And another thing happened that most of us weren't prepared for either. We would have been expecting, and I have been expecting, gold and silver to come down a little bit, both, on the news that we got this another trillions of dollars in increase deficit spending. So the markets are going to love it, the bankers are going to love it, great, hooray. And all of a sudden that didn't happen. Gold was up, breaking records today again. I want to say the last time I looked, it was $1,660 or maybe $70 dollars. Matter of fact, since I do have my phone, gold was right this second at $16.57, and silver's up $1.50 at $40.74. So the opposite has finally occurred when it shouldn't have, as far as nonsense news goes. Oh great, a country's in more debt, markets rally, gold and silver go down. The strange thing happened, gold and silver went up. So I guess maybe the world has now looked at America, the strongest economy in the world, the strongest nation in the world, isn't quite so strong. There's starting to be cracks in its economy, in its political arena too. And we don't know if we trust the dollar right now. So maybe everyone started pulling out of the stock market a little bit, right? Finding the safe haven. They don't care about bonds and everything else because they know they'll get defaulted on too. Maybe they want to do a little run on gold and silver. Hey, I don't know. I was not expecting to see this right after they passed this. The opposite would normally occur. Now, realistically, anyone with common sense would tell you what happened today would be normal. A country got more debt enslaved, a bigger credit card to pay off its old debt, including the new debt gets tacked onto that. Why would a market of that country rally? And why wouldn't gold and silver go up? They should go up and the market should collapse. Or not necessarily collapse, but it should at least dive. That's what common sense tells you. So today, for some reason, common sense took place, and what was supposed to happen based on the laws of freaking nature happened. Which is very interesting, isn't it? So I can't wait to see how gold and silver just starts responding. We are not even in September. We are in the very first 2 days of August. And based on the price of silver, when Lindsey Williams said, his buddy told him, you will see a 20 to 25% increase in the price of silver starting around September. In another video he did, he actually said starting at September through December, we'll see those prices. Either way, it doesn't really concern me that he was more specific in one video than the other. I just wanted to let you know what he said. So, we are in August the 2nd today, and we are damn near that 20% mark that he called in advance, of course, as he always does and is always right. We have a whole entire month to go to see what silver and gold are going to do. Now, gold, on the other hand, it was kind of out of control right now, and it's leaving that gap in silver. But as I told you, be patient. When everyone got sick to their stomach, it was bothering you, I did a few videos on purpose just to cheer you up, because I know how that feels. You may have bought at 50, 45, 40, whatever, drops down to 33, 34, 35, 33, oh my god, 32 up, 35, 37. Guys, calm down. They're just squeezing out the paper. They're just doing what they do. They're just dropping the market like they always do. It's going to go back up. There'll be new highs set again in the very near future. Just calm down. If you can't take this, you shouldn't be playing with physical silver. We are not day traders. We are storing values of wealth is what we do. So I didn't really have anyone comment like, hey, I can't take it. So that's good, and I'm glad, because as you see today, we're basically at $41 here. 40, 70 something, whatever it was, we're close enough to 41. When you add in the difference of 40, a 20% increase on $35, we're at Lindsey Williams 20 to 25%. I mean, we're right there. And we're not even in September, much less September, October, November, December, the window of time, Lindsey Williams said. So is it possible that when he said the next move in silver by his oil guy is going to be 75, not necessarily the next move, but where it's heading, was $75 to $100 an ounce for silver and $3,000 gold? I saw $1,670, I believe, today on gold today. That's $1,700 almost. Again, silver, it's going back up. They cleaned all the paper out. Everyone, oh, it did what it did in the 80s, I'm not looking back. And they're gonna sit there and say, well, I never got back in. Huh, silver kept going up. I thought I wasn't supposed to go back past 40, much less 35 or 32 after it hit the bottom of 32, 33. What the hell's going on? Now it's up to 40. Now it's up to 44. I got to get back in, and that's what's going to happen. And of course, when the average person gets back in, or maybe not the average person, but the people who play the paper game get back in, oh, I'll get back in on the contracts. Of course, another margin increase, margin increase, margin increase, and if you hear that again, oh my God, 2 margin increases in the same week, you already know you may want to sell some of your silver, immediately, because they're going to push the price down. Don't sell all of it, because you never know if they do that and it doesn't have the same effect. Because there was times over the last 10 years when they did major increases, margin increases on silver, several years ago, even before anyone was really on to silver. And sometimes when they made that move, the price of silver went down. Oh, it cleaned out the papers. Up, see ya. And then it would go back up, of course, meet new highs, and then they do it again, and then sometimes it would just sit there, not phased by that margin requirement increase, and then go up again. So because we saw what happened when they did this last round of 3 or so margin increases in 1 week, it did collapse the price down. However, all of those paper bozos may be out of the market now. So we may see margin increases, only to find out that there's hardly anybody in the paper market, therefore there's not a big sell-off. Unless, of course, JP Morgan decides to use that news as selling their own positions. But who knows? I just want to throw that out there, and that's all I got for this video. Right now I got to do another one.